You are trying to carry 10 lives in one pair of hands, and that is why everything keeps slipping through your fingers. You want many things at once. You want money, but you also want comfort. You want mastery, but you also want variety. You want respect, but you also want the freedom to drift, to change direction whenever effort becomes heavy. You have not yet understood the simple, brutal law that governs all great achievement. Power belongs to the man who is willing to narrow himself to one dominating purpose and hold that purpose in his mind until the world is forced to make room for it. As long as you scatter yourself, you will be ordinary. The day you choose one thing and refuse to let go is the day your life begins to move with the force you have admired in others. Look honestly at your past efforts. You have begun many things. Plans, ventures, routines, resolutions. For a few days, perhaps weeks, you drove yourself with enthusiasm. Then a new idea appeared, or a difficulty rose up, or you grew restless and your attention wandered. You left behind half-built efforts and convinced yourself that the problem was the plan. You told yourself that was not the right thing for me, and you rushed to the next. You never stayed long enough to discover what you are truly capable of when every ounce of your energy is drawn into a single channel. You have been like a river that keeps changing course, cutting a little into many banks, never deep enough in one place to carve a channel to the sea. The men whose names you speak with respect did not possess 10 times your intelligence or 10 times your luck. They possessed something more important. One great obsession, carried long after lesser men grew tired of theirs. They understood that life does not surrender its highest prizes to the man who merely samples. It yields to the man who insists. When a mind is seized by a definite purpose and refuses to be divided, it becomes magnetized. Ideas, people, and opportunities begin to organize themselves around that purpose. What seems like chance to the scattered observer is simply the natural response of the world to concentrated thought. If you are sincere about transforming your life, you must choose that one thing. I am not speaking of a passing interest or a shallow wish. I am speaking of a central aim that you decide will govern your decisions, your time, and your habits for years if necessary. It may be mastery of a craft, the building of a particular enterprise, the creation of a certain level of financial independence, or the development of an uncommon skill. Whatever it is, it must be clear, definite, and demanding enough to call forth your full strength. A small goal cannot hold a great soul. Vague longing cannot command the mind. You must be able to state your chosen aim in one firm, unmistakable sentence, and that sentence must be heavy enough that you feel its weight when you speak it. Sit alone and strip away the clutter of half-desires. Which of your many wishes survives when you imagine devoting 10 years to it? Which aim would you still respect yourself for pursuing, even if no one applauded you along the way? Which purpose makes you feel more alive when you think of pouring yourself into it completely? That is your clue. Do not ask whether it is easy. Do not ask whether others approve. Ask only whether it is worthy. A man's worth is measured by the size of the thing that can occupy his whole heart. Once you have chosen, you must burn the bridges to casualness. The era of trying a little of this and a little of that is over. From this hour, your central aim becomes the axis around which all other decisions turn. When new opportunities present themselves, you do not ask, "Is this interesting?" You ask, "Does this serve my one great purpose, or does it dilute it?" If it dilutes, it is discarded. You will feel the pain of sacrifice at first. You will feel the itch of old habits tugging at your attention. You will hear voices saying, "Do not box yourself in. Keep your options open. Understand that options is the word the weak use to hide their fear of commitment. Power comes to the man who is willing to close the doors that do not lead to his chosen end. Your mind will not accept this new rule without protest. It has grown accustomed to variety, to distraction, to the mild excitement of new beginnings. You have taught it to crave novelty instead of completion. Now you must reverse the lesson. Begin to take pride not in starting many things, but in finishing one. When you catch yourself reaching for a new scheme because the current one has become difficult or dull, stop and remember, you are training your character. Every time you run when boredom or resistance appears, you deepen the habit of quitting. Every time you stay, you deepen the habit of endurance. The difference between failure and triumph is often nothing more than the number of times a man refused to abandon the same direction. You must now reshape your days to reflect this single focus. No more aimless hours. No more working when you feel like it. Decide how many hours of each day will belong to your one thing and guard those hours as a miser guards gold. During that time, you do not entertain other projects, other dreams, or idle diversions. Your mind is directed like a beam of light onto one problem: how to advance this central purpose one step further. You read, practice, plan, build, and refine only in relation to that aim. This concentration will feel narrow at first because you are accustomed to mental wandering. In truth, it is expansion. For the first time, you are allowing your energy to accumulate instead of dissipate. Think of a simple lens. When it spreads the sun's rays, nothing happens. When it focuses them at a single point, wood begins to burn. Your life has been the wide circle. You have warmed many surfaces without transforming any. Focus yourself, and you will discover the heat you carry. That heat is power. It is influence. It is the ability to bend circumstances instead of being forever bent by them. To focus on one thing until it has to succeed does not mean you never adjust your methods. Plans may change. Tactics must evolve. But the direction does not. The man who is committed to building a bridge may change the design when he discovers a better one, but he does not wake one morning and decide to dig wells instead. Your aim is the bridge. The particular strategies you employ are tools. If a tool proves dull, discard it. If a method fails, change it. But never change your aim merely because your first approach was clumsy. That is how children behave, not builders. You must prepare yourself for the loneliness that comes with this kind of focus. Most people are busy doing many small things. They will not understand why you are so devoted to one. They will tell you that you're too serious, that you should relax, that you are missing out. Smile inwardly when you hear this. Understand that they are describing their own fear of commitment, not your destiny. While they taste a little of everything and digest nothing, you are planting a tree that will one day shelter you from every storm. You cannot expect those who live from distraction to bless your concentration. Their opinion is not your concern. There will be hours when your chosen aim feels heavy. You will be tempted to romanticize the time when you were free to chase any impulse. Do not be fooled. That freedom was slavery, a slavery to restlessness, to indecision, to lack of progress. The weight you feel now is the weight of meaning. You are no longer scattering your life in every direction. You're loading it into a single arrow and drawing the bowstring back. Tension is natural. Tension is necessary. Without it, the arrow goes nowhere. Each day that you hold to your one thing, you deepen a groove in your character. You become the kind of person who sees things through. Others will begin to sense this. At first, they doubted your seriousness, remembering the many times you started and stopped. but repetition is persuasive. As weeks turn into months and your focus does not waver, the world will adjust its estimation of you. Offers that once came dressed as distractions will begin to come shaped as genuine assistance. People respect a man who has chosen his road and refuses to step off it. Remember also that focus sharpens perception. When you devote yourself to one path, you begin to notice what you used to overlook. Your mind, no longer dulled by constant change, becomes alert to small advantages, hidden patterns, and subtle openings that others miss entirely. What they call luck is often nothing more than the reward of a man whose attention has been facing the same direction so long that he can see a door the hurried passerby never notices. This is another reason to refuse distraction. Every time you turn your head to chase a new idea, you take your eyes off the gate that might have opened with one more day of steady gaze. Do not be afraid of becoming too focused. Be afraid of dying without ever knowing what you could have done with your whole strength gathered in one place. A scattered life feels busy but ends light. A concentrated life may look narrow to the casual observer, but it finishes heavy, rich with accomplishment, depth, and proof. The world does not remember those who almost did many things. It remembers those who actually did one great thing, or a few worthy things, completely. Do not wait for encouragement to hold your course. Encouragement is pleasant, but it is not fuel enough for a long journey. You must learn to draw strength from your own progress. Keep a simple record of what you accomplish toward your aim each day. The entry may be small. A page written, a skill practiced, a problem solved, a contact made. At the end of each week, read these entries. You will see evidence that the days are no longer slipping through your hands unnoticed. You will see that while others complain about time flying, you are turning time into structure, knowledge, and momentum. Understand this clearly. The world is not against you. It is indifferent. It will grant its richest rewards to the man whose purpose is clear and whose persistence is proven. When you push yourself to focus on one thing until it has to succeed, you are not begging life for favors. You are proving to life that you can be trusted with the outcome you seek. The law is simple, but it is not easy. Concentrate, endure, refine, and refuse to abandon your post. Do this long enough, and even the most stubborn resistance begins to wear down. You stand now at a crossroads. You can continue dividing yourself among many half-hearted pursuits, collecting fragments of experience and calling it a life. Or you can choose one worthy purpose, bend your entire being to it, and discover what happens when a human soul stops scattering and starts striking in one direction again and again until the wall cracks. In the next part, you will see how to build the inner discipline required to hold your focus when boredom comes, when difficulty rises, and when the old craving for variety tries to pull you back into the shallows from which you are now beginning to emerge. You have chosen your one thing. You have drawn the bowstring back and pointed your arrow in a single direction. Now comes the part that separates serious builders from restless wanderers. You must remain aimed at the same mark long enough for the shot to matter. The difficulty is not in choosing a purpose. Many men choose. The tragedy is that they choose again and again at every sign of discomfort. The real battle begins after the decision, when days grow repetitive, progress seems slow, and the temptation to try something else appears dressed as wisdom. If you are to push yourself to focus on one thing until it has to succeed, you must gain mastery over three enemies: boredom, interference, and your own divided nature. Each of these will attempt to pry your fingers off your purpose. You must learn to recognize them and defeat them on sight. Boredom is the first enemy. You begin with fire in your veins. The thought of your chosen aim excites you. You imagine the future so vividly that sleep feels like an interruption. This initial fire is useful, but it is not enough. Inspiration is the spark that lights the furnace, but it is the steady fuel of habit that keeps the heat alive. When the novelty fades, as it always does, you will look at your workbench, your tools, your books, your plans, and feel no thrill. You will see another day of similar effort stretched out before you. The common man misinterprets this feeling as a sign that he has outgrown his goal or chosen the wrong path. In reality, it is only the mind's protest against discipline. You must not dialogue with it. You must do the work anyway. Understand that boredom is not a message from fate. It is merely a sensation produced when your nervous system realizes that you intend to move in the same direction today as you did yesterday. It has grown accustomed to sudden changes. It craves confusion because confusion is easy. A changing aim requires little of you. You are constantly beginning, which costs no more than enthusiasm. Finishing, on the other hand, demands repetition. Repetition is where mastery is forged and where most quit. The cure for boredom is not escape. It is deeper engagement. When the task feels dull, look closer. Study the details. Ask, how can I perform this step more efficiently? How can I improve my technique by a small margin today? Challenge yourself inside the repetition. You will discover layers of refinement that a shallow worker never finds. The more skill you bring to your one thing, the less space boredom has to inhabit. Interference is the second enemy. It comes from the outside as surely as boredom comes from within. Once you begin to devote yourself to a single aim, you will notice how many demands the world suddenly places on your attention. Invitations will arrive that seem harmless but steal your hours. Favors will be asked of you that sound reasonable but pull your hands away from your own work. People who never noticed you when you drifted will appear with suggestions, opportunities, and urgent matters that require your help. If you are not alert, you will find that your days are soon filled again, but not with what you have chosen. You will be busy, tired, and secretly unsatisfied because you will feel yourself slipping back into the pattern of living for every demand but your own purpose. You must develop the courage to say no in service of your yes. This will discomfort you at first. You have been trained to feel guilty when you protect your time, as if your life exists primarily for the convenience of others. But remember, you are not refusing because you are selfish. You are refusing because you are committed. There is a difference. When a request arrives, measure it against your one thing. Not every outside obligation is interference. Some may genuinely support your aim or express a duty you must not neglect. But most are simply diversions disguised as obligations. You must learn to say, calmly and firmly, I cannot attend to that. My time is already committed. Each time you do this, you strengthen your grip on your own life. Each time you surrender out of fear of displeasing someone, you loosen that grip and give them power over your destiny. The third enemy is your divided nature, your own inner resistance to being unified. Inside, you are two selves, the self that hungers for greatness and the self that clings to comfort. The first self wrote your definite aim and felt alive while doing it. The second self immediately began looking for ways to soften the cost. It whispered, surely you can pursue this purpose and still keep all your old habits. Surely you can give yourself to this work and still be as idle, as distracted, as easily amused as before. That is impossible. Concentration is sacrifice. To say yes to one thing is, in effect, to say no to 100 others. Your divided nature hates this. It would rather accomplish little than give up anything. If you listen to it, You will try to carry your new aim in one hand while clutching your old life in the other. You will tell yourself you are balancing. In truth, you are strangling your progress. The only cure for a divided nature is a renewed decision made daily to live as one self only, the self aligned with your aim. Each morning, before the frictions of the day begin, remind yourself in clear words, I have chosen my road. I will not betray it to please my weaker impulses. I will not allow my old habits to masquerade as needs. Then, throughout the day, when you feel the pull to drift, repeat that decision. You are not being cruel to yourself. You are saving yourself. The part of you that fights focus is the same part that has betrayed you for years by promising satisfaction and delivering only regret. You owe it no loyalty. To sustain focus on one thing, you must also construct an environment that supports it. Do not rely solely on willpower. Even the strongest will tires when it fights unnecessary battles. Look around at the place where you work. Is it arranged to keep your attention on your one aim, or does it invite distraction at every turn? Clear away every object that does not serve your central purpose. Assemble the tools you need so that you can begin work with minimal friction. Keep visible reminders of your goal where your eyes naturally fall. A written statement, a sketch, a symbol that recalls the future you are building. These are not ornaments, they are anchors. The more cues your senses receive, pointing in the same direction, the less often your mind will wander. Schedule your hours with stern kindness. Decide in advance how many hours of each day belong to your one thing and during which blocks of time you will attend to it. Treat these hours as sacred. Do not use them for errands, idle visits, or trivial matters. When the appointed hour arrives, sit down and begin, whether you feel ready or not. The feeling of readiness is unreliable. If you wait for it, you will wait for years. Begin and readiness will grow as you move. Once your working interval ends, step away. This trains your mind that there is a rhythm, focused labor followed by rest. Over time, your very body will come to expect effort at certain hours and will offer less resistance. You will have turned your schedule into an ally instead of a field of constant decision. Understand that focus is not a mood, it is a method. Do not say, today I feel focused, tomorrow I do not. Say instead, today I will do the work, whether my feelings cooperate or not. The man who waits for feelings is a servant. The man who commands his actions becomes a master. As you continue to show up for your chosen work day after day, something remarkable begins to happen. You build momentum. The tasks that once took great energy become smoother. Your hands and mind begin to move with familiarity. You waste less time remembering where you left off because you never truly left. The work has been with you in your thoughts, even when you were away from your desk or bench. This continuity is one of the greatest advantages of focusing on one thing. You are not starting from zero each time. You are building on yesterday's foundation. Another crucial discipline is learning to measure the right things. When you focus on one aim, it is tempting to judge each day by visible results. Money earned, praise received, recognition given. But in the early stages, those measures will be small and unreliable. If you use them as your only yardstick, you will become discouraged and your focus will wobble. Instead, measure what lies within your control. Hours devoted to your one thing, tasks completed that directly advance it, improvements made in your skill or understanding. These are the true indicators that your work is moving even when the outer world has not yet caught up. There will come a time when results become more obvious. but you must not make your daily commitment depend on them. You work out of allegiance to your purpose, not in response to immediate applause. The people around you will test your seriousness. Some will question your insistence on devoting so much of yourself to one direction. They may accuse you of neglecting balance. Be sure you understand what they mean. If by balance they mean you must not neglect your health, your family, or your essential duties in the pursuit of your aim, they are right. If by balance they mean you should dilute your effort until your central purpose is no more important than any passing amusement, they are wrong. A sharp blade is not balanced between dull and sharp. It is decisively sharpened to one edge. So must your main effort be. Honor your core responsibilities, but do not apologize for giving your remaining strength to one consuming work. Do not be surprised if your focus causes some relationships to fade. Those who knew you as a companion in drifting may not enjoy your discipline. When you decline repeated invitations to idleness, some will feel judged, even if you say nothing. They may mock your seriousness, predict your failure, or try to lure you back into their pace. Do not respond in anger. Simply continue. Time will do the talking. In a few years, the gap between your lives will speak more loudly than any argument today. You will have built something they can see. They will have stories about what they meant to do. As your focus deepens, you may discover a new tension. Part of you will want to rush. Seeing clearly how much work lies ahead, you will be tempted to cram every waking minute with effort, to drive yourself without rest, to treat your body as if it were made of metal instead of flesh. This is a mistake. Exhaustion is not heroism, it is sabotage. If you burn out, your one thing will suffer. The secret is not frantic pace, but sustained pace. A man who moves steadily in one direction for 10 years outstrips the man who sprints for 6 months and collapses in the ditch. Treat your health as part of your duty to your aim. Sleep enough to wake clear. Eat in a way that makes work easier, not heavier. Take brief intervals to walk, breathe, and allow your mind to settle. These are not escapes, they are maintenance. You care for the tool because the work is important. There will be seasons when your one thing appears to be failing. Sales will be low, responses weak, doors closed. Here, your old habit of jumping to a new idea will try to revive itself. It will whisper, "You have given enough." This proves it was not meant to be. Look for something else. At such times, do not hastily judge your entire aim by a difficult month or year. Examine your methods. Seek advice from those more experienced. Look honestly at your weaknesses. Adjust what needs adjusting, but do not abandon the core. Often, the period when things seem most barren is precisely the period just before a breakthrough, because you are being forced to refine your approach and deepen your skill. If you flee at that moment, you will never learn what persistence could have purchased. Keep before you an unshakable truth. Concentration multiplies force. The longer you keep your thoughts, hours, and efforts aimed at the same target, the more pressure builds behind your actions. At first, your blows against the wall of obstacles seem to leave no mark. Then a hairline crack appears. Still you strike. The crack widens. Still you strike. One day, with no more force than before, the wall crumbles. Onlookers call that moment sudden success. They did not see the years of invisible pressure. You did. You know that the wall did not fall because of the last blow alone, but because of all the blows that came before it, delivered in the same place, by a hand that refused to start striking somewhere new every week. By pushing yourself to focus on one thing until it has to succeed, you are not simply pursuing a project, you are remaking your nature. You are becoming a man whose word means something, first to himself and then to others. You are proving that you can choose a course and hold to it despite boredom, interference, and inner division. That proof is more valuable than any single result, because once you have it, you can apply the same concentrated force to any future aim. You will no longer be like most, who stand at the beginning of each year full of shallow promises and end it surrounded by the wreckage of half-built intentions. You will be different, quietly, steadily, fearfully different to those who still scatter themselves. Up to this point, you have forced your attention into a single channel. You have withstood boredom, turned away interference, and refused to be ruled by your weaker nature. You have begun to build an environment and a schedule that answer to one name only, your chosen purpose. That alone already separates you from the majority. But now, something deeper begins to happen. A change not just in your habits, but in your very sense of who you are. You started by saying, I am a man who has decided to focus. If you persist, there comes a day when you no longer feel like a man who is trying to be focused. You feel like a focused man. The difference is enormous. What was once effort becomes character. What was once a disciplined practice from the outside becomes an identity that operates from the inside. From that point on, the battle grows easier in one way and more demanding in another. The easier part is this. When you first began, every hour of concentration felt like swimming upstream. Your mind kept reaching for the comfort of distraction. Your body kept asking for rest it had not earned. Your imagination kept inventing new projects to spare you from finishing the one in front of you. Now, as repetition has carved new grooves, you will notice that straying from your single aim feels more uncomfortable than staying. The habits of focus you have built start to resist any attempt to scatter yourself. You will find it hard to waste whole afternoons the way you once did. You will attempt to wander and feel a kind of inner protest, as if some quiet voice inside you were saying, this is not what we do anymore. That voice is your new identity, defending itself. When you reach this stage, you must not ignore that protest. Honor it. Each time you obey it, you strengthen it. Yet in another sense, the path becomes more demanding, because the gap between who you are becoming and who you used to be grows wider. The excuses that once satisfied you no longer do. You used to be able to tell yourself, I tried, and believe it. Now, having seen how much you can actually produce when you hold your focus, you know the difference between effort and half effort. A standard has risen in you. You cannot go back to the days when you mistook motion for progress. This inner honesty can sting. It forces you to see clearly where you are still weak. But it is also your greatest ally, because only a man who is unwilling to lie to himself can make continual improvement. As you continue to pour yourself into your one thing, the way you evaluate opportunities changes. You used to be impressed by anything that glowed with the promise of quick advancement. A new scheme, a new path, a new offer could easily pull you off your track because you had no firm measure for judging them. Now you do. You ask one simple question. Does this strengthen or weaken my central purpose? If it weakens, you let it pass, even if it shines. Many men never reach true power because they cannot endure letting attractive things go by untouched. They crowd their lives with interesting possibilities and starve their main work. You must reverse this. If it is not food for your one aim, it is a distraction, no matter how respectable it looks. Gradually, your entire pattern of thought begins to revolve around your chosen purpose. You wake up thinking of it. Throughout the day, even when engaged in other necessary duties, some part of your mind is turning it over, examining it, searching for improvements, watching for connections. You retire at night with ideas that came to you while walking, eating, or resting. You are not obsessed in a feverish, unbalanced way. You are simply aligned. Your subconscious is fully enlisted. It is accepted that this aim is not a passing fancy, but a permanent order. As a result, it begins to work for you in ways you cannot fully explain. Solutions to problems you struggled with appear suddenly, often when you are doing something unrelated. You overhear a remark in conversation that gives you the missing piece. You stumble upon a book, a line, a meeting that is perfectly suited to your next step. To the scattered mind, such events are invisible or meaningless. To you, they are raw material. Others begin to notice this change long before they understand it. They sense that you carry something definite inside you. Your words are not louder, but they carry more weight. When you speak of your work, you do not drift from one ambition to another. You describe in simple terms the one thing you are building. You sound less like a man explaining a dream and more like a man reporting a fact in progress. There is a calmness in that. People trust a calm purpose more than a noisy intention. They may still doubt your final success, that is their affair, but they stop doubting that you are serious. The world respects seriousness even before it rewards it. As your focus persists, small proofs begin to appear. A skill that once seemed beyond you now lies in your hands. A task that used to intimidate you becomes routine. Processes that felt clumsy start to flow. These are the early fruits of your determination. They may not yet show in your income or position, but they show in competence. Competence is the bridge between thought and reward. A man who masters his craft, whatever it may be, cannot be ignored forever. The market may be slow to notice, but the law that joins value to reward is relentless. When you get better, the world must adjust. Sometimes it adjusts quickly, sometimes slowly, but adjust it must. Beware at this point of the subtle temptation to ease up. There is a trap in partial success. Once you begin to see some results, some praise, some financial improvement, some recognition, you may feel a powerful urge to relax your standard. You may reason, I have proven my focus. I am no longer who I once was. Surely I can loosen my grip a little. That is the beginning of decline. Remember, you are not holding this focus merely to reach a single peak and then sit down. You are forging the kind of character that can keep climbing. When you catch yourself using progress as a reason to become soft, stop at once. Progress should stiffen your backbone, not weaken it. It should remind you that your method works and that more of the same, not less, will carry you further. You will also encounter a different kind of interference, flattery. When you were just beginning, your attention was pulled by doubt and distraction. As your work starts to show, a new danger appears. People will compliment your discipline, your dedication, your talent. Some will urge you to speak more, to advise more, to enjoy the status that even a small success can give. If you are not careful, you will spend more time talking about your work than doing it, more time enjoying the image of a focused man than practicing the focus that created it. You must keep your admiration for your own concentration lower than your hunger for the result. Accept praise politely, then return to your task. A man who becomes satisfied with being seen as serious soon stops being serious in reality. At this stage, your relationship to time changes. You begin to feel in your bones how costly each hour is. You remember the years you spent scattering yourself and recognize them for what they were. Expensive lessons. This recognition should not lead you into regret. regret is useless except as a teacher. It should lead you into a deeper reverence for the present. You will notice yourself asking before you begin anything, does this serve my purpose or steal from it? When you sit down to work, you no longer entertain the idea of half working. You understand that an hour of full attention is worth more than 5 hours of lukewarm effort. This understanding naturally brings about a quieter, steadier rhythm in your life. You rush less, but you waste less. As your one thing becomes the central pillar of your days, other parts of your life begin to fall into order around it. Confusion shrinks. You no longer struggle every week with questions like, what am I really doing? Or, what should I start now? Those questions have been answered. This leaves space in your mind for more practical concerns. How can I improve this process? Where is my weakest point? What new skill must I acquire to strengthen this work? You are no longer scattered among dozens of low-level decisions. You are free to make fewer but more important ones. That is what focus buys you. Freedom from trivial choice and power in vital choice. In time, the people closest to you, family, colleagues, those who see your life most clearly, will begin to behave differently around you. They will think twice before asking you to waste a day on trivialities. They will schedule important matters with more respect for your working periods. They will understand that your purpose is not a hobby but a backbone. Some may resent this shift. They were accustomed to unlimited access to your time and attention. Others will be inspired by it and begin to imitate it in their own way. Either reaction is proof that your focus has become visible not only in what you do, but in who you are. You are no longer simply a man among men. You are the man in their circle who is known for being about one thing. This reputation, if you maintain integrity, becomes an asset. When someone in your environment thinks of a certain kind of work, a certain kind of opportunity, a certain kind of need that matches your aim, your name will rise in their mind. Why? Because you have associated yourself with one direction so consistently that you and that direction are tied together in their thinking. Remember how, in your scattered days, you envied those who seemed to be known for something? Now you understand how that knowing is built. By repetition, by reliability, by long-term devotion to one field, you are now the one whose name rises when that field is mentioned. Yet the true transformation is not what others think, but what you now know about yourself. You can look back on months or years of holding a single line and say, I am no longer the man who runs from task to task. I am the man who finishes. That knowledge cannot be bought. It must be earned. It gives you a kind of quiet dignity that no external honor can match. You walk differently because you trust your own backbone. You have seen yourself endure boredom, stand against pressure, correct your own flaws, and continue. You no longer fear challenge the way you once did. The question, can I keep this up, has been replaced by the statement, this is how I live. This is where the phrase, until it has to succeed, begins to make sense. In the beginning, it seemed exaggerated, almost arrogant. How can anything have to succeed? But consider what you have been doing. Day after day, you have directed your thought, your time, your energy, your learning, your choices, your associations, your habits in one direction. You have refused to let temporary failure drive you away. You have used each obstacle to sharpen yourself instead of abandoning the work. You have built competence, reputation, systems, and endurance around your aim. At a certain point, the accumulated weight of all this becomes so great that for your work to remain small would be a kind of violation of the very law of cause and effect. It may not appear exactly as you first imagined, life may alter the form, but some fruitful, substantial outcome must be born of such sustained effort. By then, whether the outer success has fully manifested or not, something more important has already occurred. You have become the kind of man for whom success is no longer a surprising event, but a natural consequence of how he lives. Even if one specific project fails completely, you know you can choose another aim and apply the same concentrated force to it with improved skill and deeper patience. You are no longer gambling on luck. You are operating a principle. That knowledge is power. Most men never feel it. They spend their days wondering if their next plan will work out. You have discovered that what works out is not the plan, but the man behind it. Yet you are not finished. There remains one more refinement, one more height of understanding. How to carry this fierce focus without becoming hard, how to remain human while being relentless, how to keep your devotion to one thing from turning into narrowness of soul. You must learn to be both unyielding in purpose and generous in spirit, both single-minded in work and broad-minded in heart. In shaping that balance, your focus not only builds your success, it shapes your character into something worthy of it. You have learned what it means to choose one thing and hold to it while others scatter themselves. You have felt your nature change under the weight of sustained effort. You have seen how boredom, interference, and your own divided heart tried to turn you back, and how, by refusing them, you forged a new identity. You have begun to understand that when a man pours the best of himself day after day into a single direction, the world must eventually bow in some measure to his insistence. Yet there is one more lesson, and it is the highest. How to carry this fierce focus without becoming hard, how to remain fully human while being relentless, how to allow your devotion to one thing to deepen your character instead of narrowing it. If you do not learn this, your success, when it arrives, may become a prison rather than a crown. If you do learn it, your one-pointed life will not only build an achievement, it will build a soul that can be trusted with it. Understand this first. Focus is not the enemy of humanity. Distraction is. The scattered man believes he is well-rounded because his energy is pulled in 100 directions. In truth, he is simply spread thin. He tastes many experiences, but he penetrates none. His friendships are shallow, his work is half-conscious, his inner life is faint. He is present everywhere and deeply nowhere. When you commit yourself to one thing, you are not shrinking your life, you are giving it a backbone. A tree does not apologize for having a single trunk. Because its strength is gathered in one column, it can support broad branches and rich foliage. Your central purpose is that trunk. It does not forbid you from having other interests, loves, and responsibilities. It gives them structure. But you must be deliberate. It is easy, once you have developed the habit of concentration, to become harsh and impatient with everything that does not serve your immediate task. You may look at those around you and resent any claim they have on your time. You may begin to treat people as interruptions instead of as souls. That is not greatness. That is deformity. Your one thing exists within a larger law. The law that says nothing truly flourishes unless it contributes to life beyond itself. If your focus turns you into a man who neglects his basic duties, tramples others, and worships his own ambition, the law will eventually correct you, often through loss. The power that sustains your work will withdraw its blessing because you have violated the purpose for which that power exists, not to inflate your ego, but to increase value in the world. So you must ask yourself regularly, in the quiet of your own mind, is my devotion to this purpose making me more disciplined and more just, or merely more efficient and more cold? Am I becoming more dependable only in my work, or also more faithful in my promises, more honest in my dealings, more generous in my judgments. Your one thing should sharpen your conscience, not dull it. The patience you have learned with your craft should make you more patient with human weakness, not less. You know now how hard it is to change yourself. Let that knowledge soften your condemnation of others. You know how many times you nearly abandoned your purpose. Let that understanding make you kinder to those who have not yet found theirs. Your focus must never be used as an excuse to escape your obligations as a man. If you have a family, your purpose does not free you from being present with them. It demands that you bring to them the same steadiness you bring to your work. Your children, if you have them, may not understand the intricacies of your chosen aim, but they will understand whether you are sincere, whether your word holds, whether you meet their eyes with warmth or only with exhaustion. The law of focus does not ask you to abandon those ties. It asks you to become worthy of them. A man who can concentrate on his work but cannot listen to his own household without irritation has only half conquered himself. There is also a danger that your one thing becomes your idol, that you begin to measure your worth entirely by the visible progress of your project. When the work advances, you feel valuable. When it stalls, you feel worthless. This is a fragile way to live. You must remember that your true success is not the object you are building, but the builder you are becoming. Circumstances may, at times, slow your efforts in ways you cannot control. Markets change, accidents occur, seasons of illness or duty arise. If you have attached your whole sense of self to outward momentum, you will crumble when it falters. But if you understand that your chief victory is your mastery over yourself, your discipline, your perseverance, your integrity, then even in forced pauses you remain rich. The project may be delayed, the man continues to grow. To protect yourself from this idolatry, you must keep a portion of your focus reserved for inner inventory. Not every hour, but regularly. Withdraw from your work and ask, what kind of man am I becoming in the pursuit of this goal? Am I more humble than when I began, more aware of how much I still do not know? Am I more grateful for small gains, more capable of joy that does not depend on numbers and notices? Or am I growing proud, restless, and harsh? If you find pride growing, cut it at the root. Pride whispers that you alone have built what you have. The truth is, you chose and persisted. That was your part. Yet you were also assisted by countless forces beyond your control. The knowledge of others, the cooperation of those who work with you, the timing of events you did not arrange. Recognize this. Regard your own focus as a stewardship, not as proof of superiority. Your one thing should also teach you reverence for time, not worship of the clock. There is a difference. To revere time is to understand its value and use it well. To worship the clock is to live in constant anxiety, measuring your worth by how many tasks you can cram into each day. The man who worships the clock may be busy, but he is rarely deep. In your focus, make room for slowness where slowness matters. Careful thinking, unhurried conversations that truly matter, quiet observation. Some of your best insights will come not in hours of frantic action, but in moments when you pause long enough for your subconscious to speak. Do not despise those moments. They are not waste, they are source. As your work begins to bear more visible fruit, you will face another test. What to do with success when it arrives. You have been training your mind to persist until your effort has to succeed. But once success does appear in concrete form, in income, recognition, stability, you must decide how it will affect your focus. Some men reach this point and immediately loosen their discipline. They reason, I have earned the right to relax, and they sink into indulgence. Others go to the opposite extreme. Frightened of losing what they gained, they clutch it so hard that all joy vanishes. Both are forms of slavery. One to pleasure, the other to fear. The man of true focus takes another way. He receives success as confirmation of law, not as justification to abandon it. He allows himself to enjoy the fruits of his labor, but he does not let enjoyment grow into idleness. He uses his increased resources to strengthen his work, to improve his tools, to widen his influence in meaningful directions. At the same time, he refuses to let success narrow his sight to money alone. He remembers that his one thing, if it is worthy, is not merely a device for gain, but a channel for contribution. He asks, how can this achievement support not only my comfort, but the good of those who have labored with me, the strengthening of those who look to me, the betterment of the small corner of the world where my work has reached? This brings us to the highest expression of concentration, legacy. You began by focusing for survival, then for achievement. Now you must consider focusing for continuation, so that what you have built and what you have become does not vanish when you leave the scene. A life scattered in 100 directions leaves little behind but fragments. A life devoted to one thing, carried on long enough, creates patterns that others can follow. Methods, standards, institutions, examples. You must ask, what am I building that will outlast my presence? Am I training others in the principles that carried me from confusion to clarity? Am I passing on the habits of focus or merely enjoying them for myself? You need not be a public figure or the head of a great enterprise to think in this way. Your one thing may be the excellence of your craft, the integrity of your trade, the raising of a strong household, the practice of a discipline that lifts everyone it touches. Whatever it is, the question remains, will others be stronger because you lived with such singleness of purpose, or will they simply say, he cared only for his own success? The law that magnified your focused effort will judge that too. Those who hoard their gains shrink in spirit, even if their vaults are full. Those who allow their focused life to become a lamp for others grow larger, even as their years advance. There is also a quiet, inward legacy, the peace that comes from knowing you did not betray yourself. Most men, if they are honest, reach the end of their days with a sense of regret over their scattered efforts. They remember the times they nearly committed to something great and then let it slip. They recall the plans that never survived the first storm. They see with painful clarity how often they chose ease over purpose. That regret is the natural consequence of a life lived without concentration. You are choosing differently. You are building a record day by day of staying the course. One day, when your strength is not what it once was, you will look back upon this season and say, I did not run from the work. I did not flee the long road. I chose a direction and I held to it. That knowledge, more than any medal, will steady your heart. Do not imagine that a focused life must be dry or joyless. The joy of the scattered man is brief and thin. Bursts of amusement, little escapes, momentary thrills. The joy of the concentrated man runs deeper. It is the satisfaction of seeing a long plan take shape, of witnessing a skill that once trembled in your hands now flow with ease, of knowing that your days are connected instead of random. There is a peculiar sweetness in closing your eyes at night, knowing what you will rise to in the morning and why. That sweetness belongs only to those who have said no often enough to protect a worthy yes. Let us speak finally of the spirit in which you must continue. You did not choose your one thing because it was fashionable. You chose it because In your honest moment, it was the purpose that caused you to rise above yourself. Hold that memory. When discouragement comes, return to the reason you began. When fatigue whispers that you could live more easily, remember that ease was never your true desire. Your desire was to be used up in something that mattered, to stretch your strength until you discovered its real measure. So write your aim again where you can see it. Put your hand once more to the one work you have chosen. Guard your hours, but not your heart. Be hard on your excuses, but soft toward people. Let your focus make you more precise, not more proud. Remember that you are not merely trying to force a result. You are agreeing with a law that has governed every true triumph. Concentration of thought, concentration of effort, concentration of will. Push yourself to focus on one thing until it has to succeed, not because the world owes you anything, but because you owe yourself the discovery of what your life could become when you finally stop running in circles and start moving with everything in you in one clear, unwavering line.